And welcome to Hero Power. I am your host, Avanties, and as always, joining me is my co-host, Zerotio.
What is up, gang? I know this is an odd time to see our episode pop up on your
That's
feed,
right, you guys are going to
but
be seeing this on a Friday.
we decided since Avantis is going on vacation and we're not going to have a
Woo!
show this next week, uh, we would go ahead and delay this previous week's show so we could talk about Wailing Caverns as soon as we saw the cards. And those cards came out yesterday and became playable at the time of this recording just like less than 8 hours ago or right at 8 hours ago.
I'm going to take your word
Uh,
for it because I've not logged into Hearthstone today.
yeah, we'll talk about more as we get on. But I've only been able to play a couple games because obviously I was at work today and I've been hitting the gym. So we'll get into my week. Non-Hearthstone related, I got results back from my doctor for people that have been following me on Twitter and knowing that I've been going through a major weight loss battle through my health struggles. Since the first of the year, I've lost over about 45 pounds, and I'm no longer classified as type 2 diabetic.
Woohoo!
And my liver's looking good. I'll know that more for sure when I go see my GI doctor next week. But I'm under 300 pounds for the first time in 12 years, and I'm staying there. And I'm exhausted, wore out, but I am healthy. And I appreciate all the overwhelming support. I don't like to tweet about non-Hearthstone things on my Twitter, but I'm just so proud of myself and really could use a lot of the support. And the community's been great. I appreciate all the wonderful messages and everything. And if you want to see some of that, I'm at Zerotio on Twitter. From a Hearthstone standpoint, my THL opponent didn't want to play after the set release, so we decided to play early this week, and I got a win. And this is the first time in THL that I've defeated Rabobson. So big shout out to Rabobson. Well fought, went to 5 games, and basically I brought Mage and realized I was highly unfavored, so I was playing no Minion Mage without Lunacy. I slotted in Deck of Lunacy just so I could try to cheese a win, and in Game 5, I cheesed a win. Turn 4 Lunacy, and it all went downhill from there. So nice. I'm 6-1 this season. The pod people as a whole's not doing that great. Mm-hmm. But, we've been around for a long time. I think it's my 13th season with the pod people. And I think the pod people's taking a season off next season. So we're going to finish up strong. We got one more week left. And we probably won't make playoffs, but we're gonna finish up strong and play spoiler and keep some people out of the playoffs. I haven't really played much on ladder. I think I'm like around gold 5. I've been focusing on a lot of personal stuff and just weight loss and going to the gym. And I wanted to wait until after the new set so I can just have fun playing new decks. Which I've played a couple games so far today. I only got like 2 games in after I got back from the gym. But I want to play new decks and just ladder with new decks instead of trying to bring, the same old thing that worked last month. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to hit the ladder really hard since we won't have show and I won't have my THL match this weekend. I'm going to take time to play a lot of Hearthstone. I've been taking a little break and playing a lot of Subnautica. I'm actually playing the first version of Subnautica, and then after that, I'm going to try Below Zero. So I think I'm going to take a little break from Subnautica and go back to some Hearthstone because we have a lot of new content. I can't wait to talk about it. But before we get there, how's your week been?
My week's been pretty good. Like I said, I've not logged into Hearthstone today because... as you mentioned, we are getting ready for our trip, so I feel like I live in a world of laundry and packing. It seems like that's all we've done for the last week. But I have found some time to get in quite a few Battlegrounds games this week. I knew I was going to be busy, so I knocked out all of my weeklies early, like the first 2 days of the week. I knocked out all my weeklies and my dailies at that point, so I got all that done. I've pretty much just been been living on the Battlegrounds. I love it. It is my favorite place to be in all of Hearthstone. And I'm excited about some of these changes that we've got coming. We're going to talk about here in a few minutes. But yeah, no, I told you before the show, I am sans technology for this trip, except for my cell phone. So in the evenings when we are in our hotel room, I will be playing some Hearthstone. I will be playing some Marvel Strike Force. And during the day, I'm going to look at a big hole in the ground in Arizona. So, I'm excited about that.
A good way to play Hearthstone when you're kind of relaxed and have a lot of things distracting you is solo content.
Very true.
And we'll talk more about that when we get to the news. But first, we want to talk about, we normally end the audio portion talking about Tavern Brawl. And this week's Tavern Brawl is just macaws. We've seen it before. Web spinners are so passé. Macaw, on the other hand, macaws are the future. Take flight with a deck of 23 jeweled macaws and 7 random class spells. This is another repeat. It's another random. It's another one I'm going to pass on. And going forward, I don't think we're not, as a show, Hero Power, going to highlight the Tavern Brawls anymore. They're just not as fun and unique. And we kind of say the same thing every week that we haven't been playing them. So we're going to leave that up to some of the more casual
basically,
podcasts to talk about.
Until Blizzard starts caring about Tavern Brawl, we're not going to start caring about Tavern Brawl. And
now, if there's a unique Tavern Brawl that comes out, someone we haven't seen, or an interesting one that maybe is during a special event or something like that, we might talk about it. But other than that, we're probably not going to bring it up on the show weekly. If there is a Tavern Brawl you want us to highlight or talk about, feel free to write into us at HeroPower_cast.
Or tweet at Zerotio. Or tweet at Zerotio.
It's HeroPowerPodcast@gmail.com, or tweet at Zerotio, or at HeroPower_cast on Twitter. And we'll be happy to discuss it on those mediums or on the show if it's worth it.
Or if you're just distraught about Tavern Brawls, make sure you tweet at Zerotio so that he knows about it.
Yeah, because I have kind of phoned in. A shout out to at Ben Heathstone, at Ben Hearthstone on Twitter. He's kind of pointed out that when myself and Ro, who does the Hearth Casuals, stop caring about Tavern Brawl, it's kind of dead. So, but going on to our first main
patch
bullet point.
20.4.
Yeah, so patch 20.4 went live today as of this recording. That's Thursday, June the 3rd. And there's a lot of changes, stuff that wasn't expected. First off,
let's start with Caverns Below. First day of school, competing with Caverns Below for the most changed card number of times in Hearthstone history.
Yeah, so obviously the big point on 20.4 is Wailing Caverns Mini-Set. That's the name of the mini-set. Kind of been teased quite a bit and hinted at. We'll talk more about that in the second half of the audio portion. And a reminder, no play portion this week. We're going to be reviewing all the cards. But the first non-Wailing Caverns bullet point is standard updates. First day of school.
Yet again.
Is going from 1 mana, add 3 random 1-cost minions to your hand, to 1 mana, add 2 1-cost minions to your hand.
We talked about this last week, and wasn't this one of the changes you suggested?
Yeah, I suggested that it go to 1 mana, go from 0 mana to 1 mana, and I thought if they did that, it would kill the card. The
So,
main reason I thought that was important is because you can get non-paladin, non-neutral cards,
mhm.
and those are the ones that tend to swing the game in a way that blows out a lot of games that early.
Right.
Um, so when it went to 1 mana add 3 random 1-cost minions, I thought that was like more of a buff, but it was a nerf to it being an aggro dex, but in tempo and mid-range
Mhm.
paladin, it became a buff. So basically, we went from playing one type of paladin to a different type of paladin, and we just kept first day of school in that deck.
It just kept
And
rolling.
and
You,
I'll be honest, if that paladin continues to be the style, I think this still gets played.
I agree. I tell you, the 0 to 1 change really, the big difference there was it went from being played on the first turn at 0 mana to being played in the mid game for
Yeah,
1 mana,
it's a
and
tempo.
you were getting 3 minions. Now you're still going to play this card in the mid game. Yeah, you're only going to get 2 minions again, but that's okay because, like you said, it's pulling from a huge pool of random 1-cost minions.
Yeah, and the style of deck I think we're gonna see with the new mini set. I don't know if it's gonna be the best way to play Paladin. We'll talk more about that when we're reviewing the cards. But I think that this new version is going to be kind of more of a mid-range board-centric Paladin, and Rally is going to be the card that gets played quite a bit because there's going to be a lot of good 2 and 3 cost minions that can be pulled back with Rally, and you need some 1 costs in there. And why not use first day of school to get really broken 1 costs from other classes?
Yeah. The other standard update to Paladin is to the Holy Spell Hand of a Doll. So, if you guys are familiar, this is a 2 mana, give a minion +2/+2 and draw a card. It's now going to be 2 mana, give a minion +2/+1 and draw a card. So, they're reducing the health buff from this spell by 1 mana.
Yeah, I honestly think the main reason this card is played is for the card draw. I don't think. I mean, there is a little bit of play with making a the Libram the Libram minion
The 1/3
from a 1/3
Yeah.
to a 3/5.
Right.
So that right there is kind of a big deal. Um, I still think this gets played for card draw because Paladin doesn't have a lot of good card draw ever since Divine Favor got taken away.
Yeah.
And any card draw is good. I think if this was give a minion +2 attack, draw a card, it'd still get played.
Yeah. And then the last standard change is to a card that was, again, just nerfed or just buffed recently. The Unbound Elemental. It was a 3 mana 3/4. Whenever you play a card with Overload, gain +1/+1. It's now a 3 mana 3/4. And here's the important part. After you play a card with Overload, gain +1/+1. So it went from whenever you play a card to after you play a card. Zerotio, why is this important?
The important thing is there are a few Overload cards that do board damage to all minions. And basically what was happening is if you had a damaged Unbound Elemental and you played that and it would normally kill it, it would buff it out of range because it went off whenever you played the spell. And then it would survive at like 1 health. Where now it has to survive that board damage and let that spell or that Overload card finish resolving before you get the +1/+1. So I don't technically it's a nerf, but honestly I'm still not seeing Unbound Elemental yet. Now I haven't been on much today, and I have seen Dexter was playing an elemental list, an elemental shaman list, and on top of that, a lot of other sources are using like a very aggressive elemental shaman lineup and a deck list, and I think this is to kind of make sure that to keep that in check, because you don't want the best of both worlds. You know, with that Unbound Elemental. I don't know if Unbound Elemental is in that deck. I haven't had time to look at deck lists today, but I suspect this is kind of a preventative.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a big deal. I think if you are playing Unbound Elemental, it's probably still just as effective. It's the board clears. It's that deal all damage to the board, to all minions that this impacts, which is probably very niche.
Yeah. So that's it for the standard updates. Next, we've got some Battlegrounds updates, including 2 new heroes. First up, we have Mutanus the Devourer. So it's a Murloc hero, and his hero power is Devour, cost 0. Remove a friendly minion, spit its stats onto another, get 1 gold. So basically, you're selling a minion to Bob, only Mutanus is giving those stats to a random friendly minion. It's important to note, the spit is not targeted, it is random.
Yes. So it goes to randomly to another minion, but basically you're selling this minion, and a lot of times you'll buy a minion to play it for its battle cry and then just sell it for 1 gold. Well, now you're going to get its stats somewhere on your board. I think because this is 0 cost, it's going to be good.
I'm a little up in the air about this yet, as of right now, because we haven't seen it used, but I'm not a fan of the completely random. Like, you will have to have only the minions you want on the board for this to be super useful. If you sell a minion and these stats go onto a minion you're not keeping, that's just a wasted turn.
I'm imagining this is gonna be best in an elemental comp with Nami, so that
Nomi.
You're constantly buffing up elementals in Bob's Tavern. So you're buying elementals you would normally use as a buff to sell. You're playing it and using this ability and getting a large amount of stats.
Big stats, big numbers.
And I could see this being changed to the same effect, but not getting the gold.
Okay.
I'm already looking at this and thinking it's a little overpowered in specific comps.
Yeah, I'm not seeing that right now. We'll have to wait until it launches, but
you're honestly, more seasoned than I am at Battlegrounds.
Honestly, I think the next hero is the one we need to look at as being really strong, and that's Guff Rune Totem. Guff has a hero power of Natural Balance, 1 mana, hero power, give a friendly minion of each tavern tier +2/+1. So this ability right out of the box reminds me of Queen Wagtoggle. She gives a minion of each tribe +1/+1 for her hero power. So this, you don't have to build Menagerie. You just have to build one of the. I mean, you could build out all Quillbores, and as long as you have 1 Quillbore of each tavern tier, they're all going to get buffed +2/+1 for 1 mana. So
one of each though.
One of each. So theoretically, you're giving +3 × 6 stats every time you push the button.
So you could be changing your board
by
plus 12
18.
plus 6 for one gold.
Plus 2 plus 1 times 6 minions for 1 gold.
So plus 12 plus 6.
Yeah. Plus 12 plus 6 every single turn for 1 gold.
Usually you're not keeping tier 1 and normally not tier 2 minions that late, but I've finished a lot of games with tier 3 tier and higher.
But if you're buffing the reborn, the tier 1 reborn mech every single turn.
Oh goodness.
Yeah.
I mean, the reborn half isn't buff. By the time you get towards
the end of the game, he's going to have gotten plus 2 plus 1 7 or 8 times.
Wow.
He starts as a 1/2, so he's going to be really big by that point. I really like this character and this ability. I think this is really strong. So
Guff Room Totem, just from thematic lore, he's like my spirit animal. Every portrayal of him, and I can't wait for his solo content, is just amazing.
Yeah.
So I love the character, and I'm glad he's in Battlegrounds, and he looks like he's going to be strong.
Yeah. It is important to note that with the introduction of these 2 new heroes, we are losing a hero. They are removing Maeve Shadow Song from the hero pool. So Maeve will no longer be available, on a temporary basis, beginning June the 17th, I believe, is when the new heroes roll out. So
no, they're out now. They're out with patch 5. Patch
okay.
20.4.
That's June 17th is when they arrive for everybody.
Yes, you only have access to those if you have the Battlegrounds perks.
Yes,
or Tavern Pass, what it's called now. But they'll go to everybody available June the 17th.
Gotcha. Okay. So yeah, there you go. There are a couple of new minions, or there is a new minion.
One new minion, yeah.
Yeah, the Hex Ruined Marauder. It's a tier 4 battleground demon. It's a 3/5 at the end of your turn. If you have 6 or fewer minions, it gets +3/+3. So it really gives you a benefit to not having a full board. Which
it is actually, with demons, there's been a few times that I will sell down to 6 so I have room for my imp gang boss and my imp mama to be able to summon a minion.
Yep.
So that's if I don't have a good board, that'll have a good point.
Yeah, with demons, you usually don't want to have a full board. You'll end up hurting yourself. There are a few more minion pool updates. We'll have those in our show notes if you guys want to check those out. Duels with this patch, the Wailing Caverns Mini-Set has been added to the loot buckets in Duels, so you will now be able to find those cards in the passive
and you can
treasure
build your
system.
decks. Your 15 card starter deck can also have Wailing Caverns cards.
Yep. Arena is seeing a rotation with this patch. So you're going to see the Wailing Caverns Mini-Set, the Forged in the Barrens set, the Dark Moon Races Mini-Set, the Madness at the Dark Moon Fair set, Skullomance, Ashes of Outland, Kobolds and Catacombs, Goblins versus Gnomes, and of course, the core set in the current Arena rotation. Zerotio, tell us about returning card backs and hero skins.
So, if you missed out on any card backs or hero skins, including the ones that went for sale with a card back for like $9.99 in the store, and that was the only way you could get them, they are going to become available as of this patch. So as you're listening to this on a download, they're available now. In client, you go into where you would normally select your card back or your portraits, and if you have any that you don't have, there are quite a few of them that can be crafted using gold. I'm not sure how much they are or if they're all the same. Card backs will be available for either 500 or 600 gold, while hero skins will be available for either 1,200 or 1,800 gold. So you simply navigate to item that you want in your collection and click on it to purchase it with gold, like crafting a card. There are a total of 94 card backs and 11 hero skins available this way.
Wow.
This is amazing. Now, I'm a collector, and I just happen to have them all. But this might make me think later in the future that I don't necessarily need to buy a bundle just to get a card back or hero portrait, that later they'll become available in game, like those bundles that have cards that I already have all the cards for the set. They're just dust. Well, now I can wait until they become available and are crafted in game. I love this. I think this is a great change for the economy of the game. I've found that Hearthstone has slowly become more and more free-to-play friendly, especially through this year and the tail of last year. What do you think about this change?
I love it. I did not really buy any of the early skins. You know, Magni was the first skin they ever released after post launch, and it was it came in a bundle with the card back, and then they released Ilaria, and then third I think it was Medivh or Khadgar, I don't remember, but I didn't buy those. I didn't spend the money on those bundles. Well, now I've had the chance to go back with gold and buy both Magni and Ilaria within the last few weeks when they showed up in the store, and now I have the option to go get any of the ones I'm missing. Also, the game launched in October, the game launched in March, but I got into the closed beta in October of 2013. Well, I didn't play much the first couple of months after it launched, so I missed like the first 2 card backs.
Oh, wow.
So I now have a chance to go back and get the ones that I might be missing. This is exciting for me.
Now, one of the questions you might ask is, does that mean they're no longer going to be selling any card backs or skins? And they did say in this blog, new card backs and hero skins will continue to appear in the shop when first introduced, but we will periodically update the collection with more returning card backs and hero skins going forward. So basically, if you see a bundle in the store for $9.99 or $14.99 that includes a skin or card back or both, and you don't want to purchase them at that time, it says right here that eventually they will show up in the collection to be crafted. So I think this is a good change. It does reward people that want to spend on those things and getting them early. But then you don't have the fear of missing out, the FOMO later on of saying, "Oh, I've got this grayed out card back or grayed out portrait that I'll never ever get to see." And I think this is I know they were for a while. Every once in a while, they'd put a card back in there for gold, or a portrait in there for gold or real money. And I like this solution better because they just do a blanket change, and eventually it people can just go in whenever they want to do it and craft them. And I'm finding myself with the changes to the Battleground Pass, the Tavern Pass, that I've got quite a bit of gold, and that's kind of
what I'm
burning
doing. I'm buying this stuff with gold now. In fact, stick around after we're done reviewing the mini set in the second half of the show. I'm gonna go in and I'll show you guys how to craft a couple of these card backs, because there's I know for a fact 2 that I really want that I'll craft right here live on the show.
So speaking of the solo content that you would have a great time playing while you're on vacation, with patch 20.4, live right now with that patch is Book of Mercenaries Xyrella. So it's the story of Xyrella. The Draenei called it the Night of Falling Stars, when shards of fractured light rained across Azeroth. So this is going to be a story of her. I haven't played it yet. I probably will do it this weekend. And I'm really excited. And you'll get a priest card pack to go along with when you defeat that solo content. And the question is, we've had the question before, well, what about the Book of Heroes? When are they going to do those? Well, it looks like they're doing the Book of Heroes and the Book of Mercenaries kind of side by side and alternating,
simultaneously.
because coming June 15th, so what's that, 2 weeks away from the day of the patch, is Book of Mercenaries Guff, where we get to see the story of Guff Rune Totem, who so far is becoming my favorite character in all of Hearthstone. And then following 2 weeks after, or
A week
1 week
after
after
that,
that,
yeah.
is the Book of Heroes Malfurion. So we're going to see two different Druid stories back to back. And it looks like they're going to be, I think they got a few more Book of Heroes left. And of course, I think Zyrilla and Guff, that'll be second and third?
Yeah, because Book of Heroes Thrall just released a week or so ago as well. So I just picked it up this week, actually. I bought the bundle for it this week. So
yeah, and then aside from that, there's a slew of bug fixes and game improvements that we'll have links to in our show notes. And aside from all that we talked about, we kind of alluded to at the top of the patch, is the new mini-set is live and available to play. It went live June 3rd. If you're listening on download, it was yesterday. And you can get those cards in your Forged in the Baron card packs, or you can purchase all 66 cards, 35 unique cards, which consist of 4 legendaries, 1 epic, 14 rares, and 16 commons for $14.99 US or 2,000 gold, just like they did with Dark Moon Races.
yeah,
I love this precedence. I love the free-to-play friendly. Obviously, if you're a casual player and you don't have enough gold build up and you want these, you can get them in packs, or you can shell out the real money. But if you're a dedicated player doing your dailies every day and you're grinding the ladder, you're going to accrue this 2,000 gold fairly easily. And this is the best way, most free-to-play friendly way of getting those small card set, like an adventure set or mini sets, 35 cards, that I remember ever. And I hope they keep this up, and it looks like it's a good precedent. It's the second time they're doing it. What do you think about this release method and this purchase method?
So when they did this with Dark Moon Fair, the mini set
Races, yeah.
Oh yeah, the Dark Moon Races, we had just really gotten the rewards track. People were still grinding their way on it. I ended up buying that mini set with cash for the $14.99. This time, I am well into this rewards track. I have well over 4,000 gold. I have no qualms about dropping 2,000 gold to buy this mini set. I think it's a fantastic deal, and I will be picking it up tonight as well.
So I want to kind of talk about that real quick before we talk a little bit more about the Wailing Caverns. When the Tavern Pass came out and we saw the rewards track and we saw how much it was going to take and how often we were getting gold, as a community, we kind of freaked out, and they made some changes to it. And now I've had a lot of people report saying, I got like 10,000 gold from the rewards track from last season and then this season's rewards track. And this 2,000 is a drop in the bucket. I have so much gold, I don't know what to do with it. Is it safe to say that we might have turned on the lights on the ambulance a little early with content creators like Zeddy and Solomon, a few of them kind of, pulling the fire alarm? Maybe we did that a little too early?
They were going to do it regardless. It doesn't matter.
I know.
They just wanted the attention and the views. They didn't give a damn.
And I think I want to kind of stick to my guns here.
And I don't give a damn what they do, say, or create.
I think I want to stand by our guns. I think us as a show, when we heard a lot of the outcry, we said we believe that current Tavern the rewards track was fine. That it just needed time to flesh out, and that it was a little bit preemptive to jump the gun. And I know people said the math was there, and I know Hearthstone Mathematics did a thing about it, saying the math was there. But I honestly think we kind of jumped the gun because people are sitting on so much gold right now they don't know what to do with it. And of course, Team 5 is giving us something to do by giving us these bundles for 2,000 gold and giving us a way to purchase card backs and portraits. I think, I'm happy where Hearthstone is right now. Mm-hmm. And but getting back onto the Wailing Caverns, there are a couple small mechanics with these mini set cards. One of them is Adventurers. They're going to be 2 mana, 2/2 neutral token minions with core set keywords on each of them for a total of 8 different minions. And they're summoned from various cards in multiple classes. Now, there's 8 total, and each one is a 2 mana 2/2, and they each have a different keyword. And they include Taunt, Divine Shield, Spell Damage +1, Lifesteal, Wind Fury, Poisonous, Stealth, and Rush. And there's going to be multiple cards we will refer to that summon the 2/2 Adventurers, and those are the Adventurers that they summon. They'll only ever have one keyword, and there's no tribes associated with any of them.
These remind me a lot of lackeys.
So, yes, kind of, except there's no battle cries.
Mm-hmm. They're all keywords instead of battle cries.
They're all keywords,
but
and
it's a similar concept.
It's a similar concept, and there are some cards that will summon them, and some cards that will put them in your hand. So, yeah, it is kind of like lackeys. But with that being said, let's get into the set review.
All right.
Take it right on top. And again, as we transition to our play portion screen, we're not doing a play portion this week.
Right.
We're just going to be reviewing all 35 cards.
So for those of you who are listening on the audio, we are showing on the screen now for those watching on YouTube the website that has all the cards listed, so you can see them and follow along. But let's start out with Demon Hunter. So Demon Hunter is getting 3 new cards, 2 rares and a common. First up, Shadow. It's a rare shadow spell, 2 mana, Sigil of Summoning. At the start of your next turn, summon 2 2/2 demons with taunt.
I think this card is solid. I think it's kind of niche. Sigils haven't really taken off. And I don't know. I think the big Demon Hunter deck right now is the Death Rattle Demon Hunter. And I don't think this goes in the Death Rattle Demon Hunter. I think this might go in the OTK to give you a little bit of sustain, put up some minions in the way. Also, it could put up minions that you can target with your own effects with Il'gynoth to do the combo when your opponents decide they're not going to play any minions. So it might work there. I think it's going to be a niche card. Before we get too far in the review, Coin Concede and Hero Power have a rating spreadsheet, and we rate everything from 1 to 6, where 6 is being that it's OP, nerf. Mm-hmm. We expect to be nerf. I gave this a 2 because I think it's going to be fringe. If you want to join us in rating those cards, we have it tweeted on our Twitter at HeroPower_cast, or at Coin Concede has it on their tweet as well. But I think it's a decent card. Okay. I think it's fringe. I don't think the deck exists
unless
yet.
I agree. I don't think a deck that is going to be able to optimize sigils is there, and I don't see this being played right away.
Maybe next set.
Next up, we have a demon minion, the Taint Heart Tormentor. It's an 8 mana, 8/8 taunt. Your opponent's spells cost 2 more. So, right out of the gate, it's an 8/8. It's an 8 mana, 8/8 taunt. That's huge. And at the point in the game where you're going to be playing this, it may be too late, but your opponent's spells cost 2 more. That could swing a game if you can get this into play.
So this is a very expensive tech card, and I believe it is designed to target one specific deck, and that's Celestial Alignment Druid.
Okay.
With this new set, we'll be talking about it more when we get to Druid. There are some cards that complement Celestial Alignment Druid, and I saw some streamers playing it today. And basically, it makes Celestial Alignment Druid so much better. But this card here, basically is a direct counter. They play their Celestial Alignment, you immediately follow up with this, and now all their spells cost more. And then they'll be playing stuff to reduce the cost of them. So I think it's not going to be played in a regular Demon Hunter deck because it takes that mana slot of Inquisitor. It's the 8 mana, 8/8, and in most Demon Hunter decks, you want to play Inquisitor.
Okay.
Because that's the 8/8 that has Rush. That it also attacks wherever your hero attacks. I can't imagine making room in those decks. However, if you're playing a different type of Demon Hunter, doesn't run Inquisitor, and you're wanting to tech against Celestial Alignment, that's the only place I see this being used.
Okay. And let's talk about what I think is the best of the 3 Demon Hunter cards. It is a Beast Minion, the Fell Rattler. It's a 3 mana, 3/2 with Rush, Death Rattle, deal 1 damage to all enemy minions. So this slides right into the Death Rattle Demon Hunter that's out there. It has it's a decent statted Rush minion, and it deals additional 1 point of damage to all enemy minions. So your stuff is fine. This is a good card.
Yeah, what is that? There is a... Is it 3 mana or 4 mana? A Hunter minion that's a 4/5 that summons a 3 mana minion when it dies. Death Rattle.
Oh, that's the taunt. That's a 5 mana 4/5 that summons a 3 mana minion when it
5
dies.
mana?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Oh yeah, the Teacher's Pet.
Yeah.
It's a 5 mana 4/5 taunt Death Rattle. Summon a random 3-cost beast, and it's random, so it can be from any class. You're gonna want to see this pop out of there. And then Hunter has some cards we'll talk about later that could give this poisonous. So I do think that it will go in the Death Rattle Hunter, a Death Rattle Demon Hunter, and you may see it summoned randomly in Hunter. So I really like this card.
Yeah.
I think I agree. I think it's the best. I gave it a 3 on our spreadsheet, which means it's pretty much playable. It's going to be in most decks, and I think it will.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to Druid. So first up, we have a Druid minion, the Fangbound Druid. It's a 3 mana 4/3 with Taunt, Death Rattle, reduce the cost of a beast in your hand by 2. So again, we're pushing that beast themed Druid synergy. What are your thoughts here, Zerotio?
I actually gave this a 3 because I think it's going to be good in that Guff Rune Totem Taunt Druid, which right now in the current meta before patch 20.4 was like a tier 4 deck. But there are some really, really good beasts in that deck that have Taunt that if played alongside this, the benefit is it's a Death Rattle. So it's not like it has to be in play and survive. So you can play this on curve on 3, and then next turn run into it, and it reduces the cost by 2, and that it holds that until you play it. It's not like this turn or anything.
Mm-hmm.
So there may be some combos later on with Beast that this plays into. I can't think of any that would exist now with the current set we have. Maybe with next set, but I do think in that Rune Totem, that Taunt Druid, this may be good and may bump it up in tier. It may go up to like a tier 2 deck.
Okay. Next up, we have one of the 4 legendaries from this mini set, Lady Anacondra. She is a 6 mana, 3/7. Your nature spells cost 2 less while she is in play. What do you think? Do you think she's gonna? I mean, 7 health. That's a pretty good number. They're gonna have to put some resources into that to remove her.
Yeah, this isn't going to matter. So this is that Celestial Alignment Druid enabler. You play Celestial Alignment, you go the next turn you're at 1 mana, you play this, your Nourish now costs 0.
Mm-hmm.
The Germinations now cost 0, and you copy her with Germination. You can even do it without playing Celestial Alignment by playing this, and then your Germination on 8 mana costs 0 or costs 2. You germinate it, summoning a copy. Your next Germination is now 0 because the reductions stack. It doesn't set them to a number; it reduces them by 2. So if you can get multiple copies of Lady Anacondra, then you can get heavy costed spells reduced down significantly. Yes, I rated her as a 2 when I was doing the spreadsheet before I saw some streams today, because I thought she would be fringe. I thought that deck would be fringe, but it wouldn't be that good. In hindsight, it could be a 6 because I think she will get nerfed. I think if they change it to your nature spells cost 1 less, it still enables the Celestial Alignment Druid, because after you play Celestial Alignment, it'll still reduce them to 0.
So for those of you listening, our spreadsheet goes 1 to 5. If a card gets a 6, that means it needs a potential nerf.
Yeah. And that's what I would give this, the very rare 6. Because I think the fact that you can, because I was watching Regis Kilman play this deck today, and he was like, wow, I don't even need Celestial Alignment in this deck.
Okay.
It was a Celestial Alignment deck, and he was able to pull off all the shenanigans with Celestial Alignment without playing the Celestial Alignment.
Right.
Because with Celestial Alignment, it reduces everything to 1. And then when you play Lady Anacondra for 1 mana, all of your nature spells will automatically be 0.
Right.
But you have to play that Celestial Alignment first. Well, he was playing Lady Anacondra, then he was turning around and for 2 mana Germination, making a copy of it and giving it Taunt. Then he was playing another Germination for free, and then he was playing the 4 mana spell, which is now free, that summons the 2 minions and buffs the entire board. And yeah, that deck was amazing.
Yeah.
I don't anticipate that this card will go long before getting nerfed. It was Arbor Up. Yeah, he was playing Arbor Up, and he was building this gigantic board, and their opponent's on like 5 mana and can't do anything with it.
Yeah. All right, next up we have a beast minion. It is the Deviant Dreadfang. It's an 8 mana 4/9. After you cast a nature spell, summon a 4/2 Viper with Rush. So, again, if you can get this out for a mana and then cast some 0 mana nature spells, you can clear a board.
Yeah, I think this is a fair card. I don't think it's great. I think in the Druid deck this would want to go into, you want to build a board that your opponent can't deal with, not deal with your opponent's board, and this deals with your opponent's board with the rush minions. So I don't think it's good. 8 mana for 4/9 body. Obviously, with Druid, the mana cost almost doesn't exist because of all the mana cheat and celestial alignment, things like that. But I think ultimately, you just want to put a bunch of stats on the board and not have a bunch of rush minions that clear other minions. So I don't think it's a very good card.
Okay. All right. That brings us to Hunter. And first up, we have a Hunter spell, Serpent Bloom. 0 mana, give a friendly beast poisonous.
I love this card. I gave it a 1 because I don't think the deck that it wants to exist in works in Hunter right now. I don't think we're going to have a very board-centric, control-y style Hunter. I think Hunter is very aggressive, and giving minions poisonous kind of says you're wanting to trade. And you don't really want to trade with Hunter.
Right.
And to take a deck slot for a 0 mana spell that doesn't draw a card.
But now if you get this randomly generated.
Randomly generated would be good. Or if this had give a friendly beast poisonous, draw a card, it might even be an auto include.
Okay. Next up, we have a new Hunter minion, the Sindorai Scent Finder. It's a 4 mana 1/6 Frenzy. Summon 4/1/1 hyenas with Rush.
We're in the same boat where this is more. First off, you need an activator, which means you're pointing damage at your own minion.
Yep.
And you don't want to do that. So you're going to use a damage spell to hit this to activate it to summon 4/1/1s to trade in the minions. I don't think it's a good card in the current meta.
Okay. And then we have a new Hunter weapon, the Venom Strike Bow. This is a rare weapon. 4 mana, 1/2 poisonous.
It's very expensive.
It is. Do we think the poisonous justifies the 4 mana cost?
I'm not sure. I gave this a 2 because I think it might have fringe play as a tech card. If, heavy taunt minion decks kind of counter Hunter, then they have a 4 mana way to trade into a taunt minion so their minions can then go face.
Yeah.
So I gave this one a 2, but I still don't think it's good. I think it's fringe.
Okay. Moving on to Mage. I really like this.
Is where it's at.
I was going to tell you, I did kind of glance at these a minute ago, and I really like these cards. So first up, we have a rare frost spell, Shattering Blast. 3 mana, destroy all frozen minions.
So this goes right up with Varden, and they are a 4 mana minion that freezes the entire board, and if the minion's frozen already, it does 4 damage to it.
Yeah.
Well, now for 7 mana, you can clear an entire board, whether they have death rattles or anything. Yeah. It doesn't matter. The death rattles will still go off, but or even if they have divine shield, it still destroys them because it's not damage based. So you play Varden when they freeze the whole board. And then you play Shattering Blast, which is interesting. The art in here has Varden on the art. And the whole board's just destroyed.
Yeah.
Now, is there a control mage that plays into this? I think there are just enough tools for a Frost-style mage to be playable. I don't think it's better than the Tier 3 deck. But maybe there's some... Maybe you use Hero Power Mage, and to get to that point where you can play your Mordresh,
play a Frost package.
You play a Frost package to control the board and kind of keep yourself out. You have Ice Barrier, which is also a Frost spell. that can be drawn by other things, which we'll talk about later, that give you 8 armor if a minion attacks you, and then you have the Shattering Blast along with Varden, and you have other frost spells and frost synergy cards to kind of keep you going. Meanwhile, you're getting your wildfires, you're getting your Mordreshes, and you're finishing the game with that big burst of damage. I think that deck can be good, at least tier 2. We'll just have to see. I haven't seen my theory craft it yet, and I'm probably going to hit the lab this weekend and start working on some decks.
Okay.
For shows in the next coming weeks. I think our next show after this is going to be recording on the 13th, going out on the 14th.
Yeah.
So I'll probably try to have some good decks that we can start playing that week.
Okay. Next up, we have a rare mage minion, the Frostweave Dungeoneer. It's a 3-mana 2/3 battle cry. Draw a spell. If it's a frost spell, summon 2 1/1 elementals that freeze. So again,
Yes.
if you're running that frost package,
if you're running the frost package, then you're going to have you're going to get some minions that will freeze. I wish they had rush. That would make this card really, really good. But also, you can play the hero power mage that we played on the show the first week the set came out, had very few spells in it. I think it had Potions of Illusions and Wildfire, and I think maybe a couple draw spells. If you limited those down to just the Wildfires, this guarantees you draw the Wildfire.
it does.
Yeah, you don't get the 1/1 minions that can freeze, but you're guaranteeing to draw your main key of the deck, which is Wildfire, which is basically, essentially, you're getting 4 copies of Wildfire in your deck.
Yep. So, all right. Next up, we have another mage minion. This one's a common. It's the Flowcaster. It's a 6-mana 5/5. Costs 2 less for each frozen enemy. So again, that Varden combo you were talking about a minute ago, you freeze the enemy's board, play you a 5/5 for free, then Shattering Blast.
So do you remember, I think the card was called Jewel Runner? It was reduced for every secret you played.
Yeah. I know.
And it was a 5/5. So it often was a 0-mana 5/5. And basically you would play all these very controlling and board-centric secrets, and then you would drop these huge 5/5s for free. Well, you can play Varden, and if they have 3 minions and you freeze them, you can then follow it up with Flowcaster to get a 5/5 on the board to go next to your Varden, and then if you want to, you can finish off the board with Shattering Blast, and now they have no minions on the board.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's good. I gave the Dungeoneer and Flowcaster 3, and I gave Shattering Blast a 4. I think Mage is probably the strongest, but aside from Shaman, needed the most help.
I agree. All right, next up we have Paladin, and they start with a new weapon, the Seed Cloud Buckler. It is a 3-mana 2/3 Death Rattle. Give your minions Divine Shield.
I think this is a great card. I gave it a 3 in our spreadsheet, but I don't think it goes in any of the current top tier Paladin decks. So I worry that we won't see this card being played because Paladin is so good right now. Now, obviously, Paladin's had a lot of nerfs lately, so maybe this Rally Paladin can come up. And this is just a fiery War Axe that with a Death Rattle to give your minions Divine Shield. So early game, you use it to kind of trade, and then you play your Rally, swing that last charge to face or hit a minion, and all those minions will get Divine Shield.
Yeah. So
I think this is the best Paladin card of the Paladin cards in this mini set.
Okay. Next up, we have a common holy spell, Judgment of Justice. 1 mana secret. When an enemy minion attacks, set its attack and health to 1.
So I gave this a 2 because I called it Fringe, and the main reason is I see this as a tech card again for the Demon Hunter Inquisitor. Because when they play that 8 mana 8/8, and then they use their hero power to attack your face, and that 8/8 goes to attack you, it's going to turn into a 1/1.
Okay.
Or if they play it and try to rush into a minion to get value before they swing to your face, it'll also turn into a 1/1 and likely die.
Yeah. Okay. I could see that.
The question is,
I mean, it is
worth...
with this just being in the pool, though, it's going to force your opponents to have to think about their attacking order more.
Yes. So what I think this replaces in the secret deck, and the reason I don't think it's that great of a card individually is because this does a similar thing to what Reckoning does. And Reckoning is the 1 mana paladin secret that when a minion does 3 damage or more, it's destroyed. So you were teching in Reckoning for the Inquisitor. So the Inquisitor would be played, it would trade into a minion, and before your opponent has a chance to hit you in the face to make it attack your face, it gets destroyed. Well, this kind of is a better... in certain matchups, it's better or worse. If you don't want this going off on a small minion, so Reckoning's better. But at the same time, if you're only expecting the 1 large minion to do the value trade, then Judgment of Justice is better. I don't think you put Reckoning and Judgment of Justice in the same deck, but I do think that there will be times you'll want Judgment of Justice or Reckoning, and you'll swap depending on what the meta gives you. So I think it goes into an existing deck as kind of like a swing tech card. It doesn't get added, it just replaces Reckoning.
Okay. Let's see. Next up we have Party Up. This is a rare paladin spell. 7 mana, summon 5 2/2 adventurers with random bonus effects. I just think this card costs too much.
It does cost too much, and it's not a holy spell, so it's not going to get reduced. It's not a Libram, so it's not going to get reduced. I gave it a 1 because for that reason. Now, if that board-centric paladin becomes a thing, those minions that are summoned, 2 mana is kind of that weird spot in Paladin. You don't have a lot of really good 2 mana minions. You have some good 1-cost minions. You have some 1/3s and some stuff that has decent effects. And you have good 3-cost minions, but your 2 costs are more support minions. Well, if you didn't run those support minions and instead you ran Party Up, you could Party Up, and then when those minions die, they'll be pulled back with Rally. Unfortunately, Rally's a 4-cost spell that you want to play on 5 or 6 after you've had some of those early minions die, and 7's a little late. So unless there's going to be some way to reduce the cost of spells that are not Librams and not holy, I don't see this being played. So maybe in future sets this year, but right now it's just way too expensive. It's a lot of value, don't get me wrong. But by the time you want to do this, you want to be pressuring. You're playing tempo and mid-range, and usually with tempo, you want to solidify the game by turn 5 or 6, and with mid-range, you want to be trying to get to the point where you're pushing for lethal by turn 10, and turn 7's a little late for that.
Okay. Next up.
Now, devil's advocate on that, having your Sea Cloud Buckler with this last charge, and then you play the Party Up and then swing at the face, now all those minions with keywords, hopefully none of them are Divine Shield, get Divine Shield. That kind of solidifies that board. But that's going into your opponent's turn 8. They can Twisting Nether. There's so many board clears they can do on 8 mana that having 5 2/2s, regardless of what the keywords, I don't think it'll be enough.
Okay. Next up in Priest, we have a rare minion, the Devout Dungeoneer. It's a 3-mana 2/3 battle cry. Draw a spell. If it's a holy spell, reduce its cost by 2. So, again, this is very similar to the Dungeoneer we saw in Mage a minute ago. This one draws a holy spell and reduces the cost by 2. I like it. I think this is going to see play.
I gave it a 1, and the reason is because they already have ways to draw spells from their deck with Thrive in the Shadows, and then they already have ways to reduce the cost of spells in their hands with the Nesmani Blood Weaver, as well as Palm Reading. So I think this is a card that does things Priest already has tools for. And
but does it not make it more efficient?
Sure, it makes it more efficient because it's a 1 card, but then you have to build your deck in a way that you're limiting yourself to only holy spells. And there are quite a few spells in Priest, one being Palm Reading, that is a shadow spell. So if you draw Palm Reading off this, then it's not going to have its cost reduced.
Right.
So that means you cut Palm Reading, but Palm Reading is 3 mana shadow spell. Discover a spell, reduce the cost of spells in your hand, which includes the one you just discovered, by 1. Mm-hmm. So it generates you a spell and reduces probably more than 2 mana worth of spells in your hand. So because of the deck building restriction with it, I don't think it is more efficient at that point.
Okay. Next up, we have a 5-mana holy spell.
It's the only epic card in the set.
The only epic card in the set, yep. Against all odds. Destroy all odd attack minions.
So this is actually a 6-cost spell because you're going to play Empathy before you do Wave of Apathy before you play this.
Yeah.
And if you play Wave of Apathy, which is 1 mana, all minions go to 1 attack, then it destroys all minions.
Mm-hmm.
6 mana for destroying all minions. Yeah, it takes 2 cards. But Wave of Apathy gets generated off Wand Maker a lot. I gave this a 4. This is what Priest needs to get back to its heyday.
You know what?
And
you know what else
was
for?
Card.
You know what else was for?
What?
2 white, 2 colorless. Wrath of God.
That's true. This is Wrath of God.
All right.
Essentially, in a way, it's a good card.
Yeah,
I like it.
Next up, we have a common Priest minion, the Cleric of Anshi. 1 mana, 1/2, battle cry. If you've restored health this turn, discover a spell from your deck.
So this does what Thrive in Shadows does, but it's for less mana and on a body. Yeah, it has a contingency of your health, restoring health.
Mm-hmm.
Now it says restored health this turn. It doesn't mean to your hero or your anyway restoring health. You could heal one of your opponent's minions or heal your opponent's face, and we'll still have this as an activator. So I think this is a good card. I think it's solid. I don't think it's deck defining or anything, but it's a good support card. I gave it a 3 in our spreadsheet. Yeah. It's a nice solid card. I like it.
I agree. Next up, we have the Rogue, and they have a common beast minion, the Water Moccasin. 3 mana, 2/5, stealth, has poisonous while you have no other minions. I don't think this is that great. I mean, if this is your only minion on the board, it's stealthed and has poisonous, but you're not developing anything else either.
And how often do you, as a rogue, you're not flooding board with stealth minions and minions with combos and battle cries to draw more minions with combos and battle cries? Very seldom will you get to your turn and your rogue opponent only has one minion, anything turn 3 on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, first couple turns, yeah, but starting turn 3, your rogues usually have 1, 2, sometimes 3 minions on the board, and some of them are even stealth. So this doesn't. I think if there is a combo centric, like OTK style rogue, that it basically wants to, the whole deck is dedicated to setting up that OTK, and they need a couple, defensive minions on the board, then sure, maybe, but I don't think that deck exists right now.
Yeah. Next up, we have a rare shadow spell, Shroud of Concealment. 3 mana, draw 2 minions. Any played this turn gains stealth for 1 turn.
I give this a 4. I think this card might enable some kind of combo. I know there have been lots of cards in history, especially in Rogue, that if you can make this card stick on the board, then next turn you could win the game or take a huge advantage. And being able to give any minion that turn stealth is really awesome. Maybe it has a specific death rattle or a certain type of static effect that if your opponent can't target it, they can't get rid of it easily without a full board clear, they can't trade into it, then yes, please, this card enables that. So I think this will be I would normally say fringe, but I think this is so good, you put it in a lot of decks right now.
Yeah. And then we have a rare rogue spell, 1 mana, Savory Deviant Delight. Transform a minion in both players' hands into a pirate or ninja minion. Oh, wait, stealth minion. Sorry. But Zerotio, it only took 6 years,
6 years
for pirates versus ninjas.
I called it. For the record, for people that have heard the meme of pirates versus ninjas, I'm almost positive it was I was on a worthy opponent, and I was guessing it was after Goblins versus Gnomes that the next set would be Pirates versus Ninjas because of the card backs that had come out. And of course, I was wrong at the time. This is gratification. I don't think it's a good card, mainly because sure, it's a tech card that can disrupt combos, but there are more tech cards that disrupt combos in this set that are better. We'll talk about those later. And and they're neutral for that matter. The problem is you might give your opponent a water moccasin, and they aren't rogue and have a bunch of and don't have a bunch of minions they want to play, and might end up getting a stealth minion on the board that can have poisonous. So I don't think this is good because it can backfire. There's too many stealth minions that they could get. The stealth minion pool is actually pretty good. It's limited right now because of smaller, we're in a 4-set meta. So you're probably going to give them a good card.
Yeah.
You're going to give them a pirate or a good stealth minion.
All right, next up we have Shaman. And first up we have the Primal Dungeoneer. 3 mana, 2/3. Battle Cry, draw a spell. If it's a nature spell, also draw an elemental.
So in the elemental synergy decks, there are some spells that complement it well, and most of those are nature. There's not a lot of them that aren't nature. So I think this is a solid include. I gave it a 3 in our spreadsheet. I think this is just a good elemental synergy card that obviously works well with the nature spells you put in that deck. So yeah, I like it.
Okay.
And Shaman got some good love, and they may be tier 1.
Yeah. Next up, we get a rare fire spell, Perpetual Flame. 1 mana, deal 3 damage to a random enemy minion. If it dies, recast this. Overload 1.
So the fact that it goes to a random enemy minion, you can't target it to ensure it'll cast again. Also, you can't target it to ensure it won't cast again,
Mm-hmm.
because every time it casts, it's going to overload you.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, in a spell damage style Brucon Shaman, this could be the board control you need to get to the point where you can do the face damage. The problem is if your opponent has a bunch of minions and you kill them all, you're probably passing your next turn because all your mana crystals are overloaded.
Overloaded, yeah.
And currently we don't have anything that unlocks mana overloaded mana crystals.
That is correct.
In the standard set. Now, if they had put one of those cards in the core set, this would raise in value, but they didn't.
Speaking of elementals, Wailing Vapor. It's a 1 mana 1/3. After you play an elemental, gain +1 attack. I feel like this belongs in Battlegrounds, not standard.
So I gave this a 4 because there hasn't been a world where a 1 mana 1/3 class minion that has any kind of positive text on it hasn't been awesome, and usually eventually gets nerfed. Mana Worm, I'm looking at you. Mana Worm got nerfed. So this is like a Mana Worm. Now, right now, we don't have a lot of really cheap elementals, but I mean, this is a 1 mana 1/3 that if you have a 2 mana elemental, the next turn is all of a sudden a 2/3 and then a 3/3, and then it just snowballs.
Right. So, all right. Next up, we have Warlock. They have a common shadow spell, Unstable Shadow Blast. 2 mana, deal 6 damage to a minion. Excess damage hits your hero. So, I mean, if you're targeting a big taunt minion or something that will absorb all 6 damage for 2 mana, that's really good. If you're using it to clear off a small minion, you're going to take some damage, which isn't always a bad thing in Warlock. There are some cards that synergize well with your hero taking damage.
The best class right now is Paladin, and they have a lot of 6 health taunt minions. They have the weapon that is a 3/3 weapon that gives you a 6/6 elemental taunt. And for 2 mana to clear those minions, that's really strong. On top of that, there are a lot of synergies still in standard with doing damage to your own face. What is it? The Flesh Giants? They're still in standard right now. So being able to enable Flesh Giants, maybe in a Soul Fragment Soul Warlock, where later you're taking this damage and you're empowering your other synergy cards that, like your Flesh Giants, and then you're healing up later with the Soul Fragments that you draw. I think this is really, really strong. I gave it a 4. Soul Fragment Warlock hasn't been top tier, but this could, along with another card in this mini set, push it over the edge.
Yep. Next up, we have a common shadow spell, Final Gasp. 1 mana, deal 1 damage to a minion. If it dies, summon a 2/2 adventurer with a random bonus effect. Do you see this replacing Mortal Coil?
No. And the reason I don't think it'll replace Mortal Coil is because I think the draw was important in Mortal Coil, where getting the 2/2 adventurer with it, and getting the 2/2 adventurer is nice, but that early you're probably going to target your own minion, which means it probably goes in Zoo, and Zoo just doesn't have the tools to be good right now.
Yeah.
So if Zoo, I gave it a 2 because if Zoo existed and was good, it'd be playable. So I call it fringe. But I don't think it goes in a control Warlock, because you'd rather have something like the Unstable Shadow, Shadow Blast. You'd rather have something like that to handle bigger minions. You're not seeing a lot of flooded small health minions. You're not really relying on your hero power for Paladin much. You're not seeing a ton of token Druid, and the token Druid you're seeing usually gets the health beefed up a bit fairly early. So I don't think this. I just don't think it has a good place in Warlock right now.
Okay. Last in Warlock, we have a Demon Minion. It's a rare Stealer of Souls. 4 mana, 2/6. After you draw a card, change its cost to health instead of mana. So while this is on the board, after you draw a card, your card is going to cost you health instead of mana. We've seen a similar effect baked into some cards in the past.
And they were much higher cost.
They were much higher cost.
Or they were an initial cost, and you had to play it from your hand. This is so in a world where you have who is that? Not Tyrion Fordring, the new Fordring.
Oh yeah, the one that summons your highest cost minion from your deck, or draws your highest cost minion.
So you can play Talon Fordring, and then either find a way to destroy it yourself or trade it, because it has Divine Shield. A lot of times Talon sticks because it has Divine Shield. He's a 3/3 with Divine Shield taunt, and sometimes they can't get through the Divine Shield, and they don't really want to kill it because they don't want to enable your draw. They want to make you trade with it. Well, then you just play this, trade your Talon, and all of a sudden your most expensive minion costs mana. Costs health instead of mana. It also could be done on, say, turn 4. You play Tour Guide on 3. You save your hero power. You play this on 4. You hero power. If it's an expensive demon, like an 8-cost demon or something like that, all of a sudden it costs health. You can plop it down on turn 4 right next to this card. This is very good. I gave it a 4. I almost gave it a 5.
Yeah. I like it as well. So many applications.
It's flexible. I mean, it goes on a lot of different
very flexible, and so many applications with the take your hero takes damage synergies that Warlock is known for. So I like it. So all right, moving on to Warrior. First up, we have a new minion, Mad at Arms. He's a 2 mana, 2/3. With a battle cry, if you have a weapon equipped, gain +1/+1.
It's Man at Arms, but
you'll never convince me it's not Man at Arms.
I do believe the inspiration for this card is Man at Arms, because he's so pivotal in the community and all the different podcasts.
Man at Arms is the second hardest working guy in the Hearthstone podcast community. Sorry, you'll just never pass Ridiculous Hat. But you are the second hardest working guy in the podcast community. And glad to see you finally got your own card.
I know a lot of people don't like this card. They don't think it's very good. But it's a potential being a 2 mana 3/4. And 2 mana 3/4s just are good. Now, are you going to have a weapon on turn 1 to play with this? Probably not. The only 1 mana minions are really... weapons are really bad. But I think this is just a good card on, say, turn 4 or 5 to go along with something else. That either gives you a weapon or it's just a weapon. I think it's a good card. It's solid. I don't think it's great. I gave it a 3 on our spreadsheet. But I think it's solid. I think it's good.
Did you hear that, Man at Arms? Zerotio thinks you're a 3. Moving along to the next weapon. Speaking of 1 mana weapons, we have a rare Whetstone Hatchet. It's a 1 mana 1/4. After your hero attacks, give a minion in your hand +1 attack.
So I don't think this is good. I gave it a 1. But in a deck that, if there can be like an aggressive warrior again, like we had back in the Pirate Warrior days, which I don't think that deck can exist right now, but maybe when the next set comes out, the curve of playing this on one, swinging face or clearing a 1/1 minion your opponent played, and then on two playing Mad at Arms, which would at that point be a 4/4 if it got the +1 attack buff, maybe even a 5/4, because it gets a +1/+1, making a 3/4. And if you swung on turn one and swung on turn two before playing this, and they got both buffs, it'd be a 5/4 on two.
Yes.
The thing is, I don't think that deck can exist in today's meta.
Okay.
But this may be a 6-set meta where we get a lot of really cheap, quick, neutral cards that enable something like this. And we're gonna, if you remember, Pirate Warrior was a 6-set meta.
Yes, it was.
In its heyday. And everybody hated that deck for like forever.
Still do. Moving on, we have our second legendary of this mini set, Kresh, Lord of Turtling. So Kresh is a 6-mana 3/9 beast. Frenzy, gain 8 armor. Death Rattle, equip a 2/5 turtle spike.
So, and the 2/5 turtle spike is just a 2/5 blanket
vanilla weapon. Yeah,
vanilla weapon. I gave it this a 5. I think it is the best class legendary in the set. Obviously, there's only 2. Actually, I think this is the best class card in the set. Even more. I think it's the best class card in the set.
Do we think Kresh is going to define an archetype?
I do, because the one deck I was able to play, and I only got 2 games with it, Kresh is in it, and I was able to play summon a total of 4 of them.
Oh, wow.
4 times 8 is 32 armor, and in that game, I got 72 armor at one point. Total, like that, not total, but like that was the highest my armor got up to. Okay. So they even chipped some of that away. So I probably generated, over 100 armor that game. The deck that this is good in right now, and again, it has not been refined. It was a Regis Kilbin deck, and he always kind of makes some crazy theorycraft stuff on the fly. Mm-hmm. And I've already seen some optimization I can make with it. It is a Frenzy N'Zoth control warrior.
Frenzy N'Zoth control warrior.
If you play this
That's
card,
a mouthful.
And it dies, whether you get the frenzy or not, hopefully you do. Usually you will, because on 6 mana it's hard for them to do 9 damage at one time, or have spot removal. You play N'Zoth. This minion is the only beast in the deck. It will come back. So you'll get a second one. Hopefully you can frenzy it. It dies. You also get another weapon. That's 2 2/5 weapons you've gotten so far. Then you can play Sourfang, who summons 2 frenzy minions that died that game. Mm-hmm. You get 2 more Kresh, Lord of Turtling. And they immediately have their frenzy go off because a Sourfang does 1 damage to the board after summoning them. Mm-hmm. That's another 16 armor.
Jeez.
So my idea is I'm going to take that kind of design that Regis Kilbin kind of theory crafted, and he made it mainly in a Zoth deck, and take some of that out and put in the Silas OTK package.
Okay.
If you don't remember Silas OTK package, there's the 1 mana 1/4 minion. I think it's 1 mana, might be 2. That any damage it takes, the hero takes, and then you play Silas to give it to your opponent to rotate the board. So you take one of their minions and give them that minion, and then you shield slam it.
Wow.
For lethal.
Okay.
And Kresh enables that deck.
Gotcha.
Now there are some obvious. We've already seen a couple cards that, like the Deviant Rogue card that turns a minion into your hand to a pirate, or a stealth minion that if that hits your Silas or that 1/4 minion, or possibly even Crash before you play it the first time, that can disrupt that. And there's also another minion, which is also in that deck, that's a neutral minion. We'll talk about that in a minute. That's very good.
Okay. Speaking of neutrals, let's jump right into it. We have 2 neutral legendaries in this set. First up is Mutanus the Devourer. 7 mana, 4/4 Murloc. Battle Cry, eat a minion in your opponent's hand, gain its stats.
So when it says eat a minion, it doesn't get discarded, it doesn't get destroyed, it can't be returned in any way that's in Hearthstone right now. It's just gone.
Yeah.
It's like when the hero portrait Reno poofed the board. They're just gone. And when it gains stats, it's the numbers at the bottom, left and right of the card. It doesn't get the text. It just gets the number stats, the attack and the health added to itself as a buff. So if Mutanus gets silenced, it goes back to a 4/4. That being said, this is a great way to disrupt combo decks. This card is in that N'Zoth Frenzy Control Warrior, and it did some really good work. I had an opponent. It was a Cthulhu deck, and they played their last Cthulhu spell, shuffling Cthulhu in their deck, which was the last card in their deck, and then they played a card to draw a card, which drew their Cthulhu, and then they passed a turn and said, well played, planning to Cthulhu
and win the game
the next turn.
Yeah.
Now, I was at I think I was at 60 some armor, so it didn't matter, but they thought I'd get that on the board, and he won't be able to deal with a 6/6. Well, I just played Mutanus, and all of a sudden I've got a 10/10 Mutanus, and he doesn't have
a Cthulhu
anymore, and he conceded.
Yep. That's nice. So, all right, and the last legendary of this mini set is Druid Nerolex. It's a 3 mana 3/3, dormant for 2 turns. While dormant, add a dream card to your hand at the end of your turn.
In my opinion, this is the best card in the set.
Okay.
Bar none. Not best where Crush was the best class card. Druid Nerolex, which is kind of the protagonist in the Wailing Caverns anyways, and should be a very good card. This is the best card in the set, and I think a lot of people are sleeping on this card. No, maybe a little pun intended. Because the whole
sleeping, yeah.
Anyways, you get a dream card because they're used to getting dream cards on turn 9, and when you utilize those dream cards or on turn 10, and you play those minions, the like Laughing Sister, 3 mana 3/5, it can't be targeted by spells. There's usually lots of ways to deal with that minion, either with minions or, with rush minions or with board clears that aren't targeted. But if you're able to get a Laughing Sister on the board on turn 3 or 4, it's a lot harder to deal with a 3/5 that can't be targeted by spells or hero powers.
Yeah.
And that can happen. Not to mention you can get Ysera's Awakening, or Sarah's Awaken, and for 3 mana you have a 5 damage board clear, like on turn 3 or 4, depending if you played this with the coin or not. So, and you will get a total of 2 dream cards before he awakens.
Yeah.
Now, you can make him dormant again by playing Maev, which is, I believe, was from Ashes.
Yes,
so I think that's still in the meta.
Correct, yeah.
I think that's going a little too far. I think 3 mana to get 2 dream cards over the course of 2 turns is good enough, and it's to me it's super strong. I don't think it's quite nerf worthy.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be a neutral that goes in most decks, kind of like Talon Fordring does now.
Okay. Then we've got 3 common minions in the neutral category. First up, we have Devouring Ectoplasm. It's a 3-mana 3/2. Death Rattle. Summon a 2/2 Adventurer with a random bonus effect.
This is really good. It's going to go right into Death Rattle Demon Hunter.
Uh-huh.
I gave this a 3 because I think it's just a solid minion. It is Piloted Shredder, really.
Yeah.
Except it's really a better Piloted Shredder. You're not going to low roll by getting a Doomsayer. You're going to get a solid 2/2 minion that has some kind of keyword text on it.
Yeah.
And they're going to have to use 2 separate forms of removal on it.
To deal with it, yeah.
So I think it's just good. And, in Death Rattle Demon Hunter, you can play the 2-drop, the 2-mana 3/2, that when it dies, it summons a 3-mana 3-mana or less Death Rattle minion from your hand. It summons the Devouring Ectoplasm, and when it dies, it summons a 2/2. I mean, they're going to have a hard time clearing your board.
Yeah. Next up, we have the Selfless Sidekick. So this is a 7-mana 6/6 Battle Cry. Equip a random weapon from your deck.
Too expensive.
By this point, you're hoping to have played your weapons, I would think.
You're hoping to have played your weapons, drawn your weapons, played.
Because I mean, if you draw this late and you have no weapons left in your deck, this is a 7-mana 6/6 that doesn't do anything.
Yeah. Also, if you do play this on 7 and you get a weapon, right now in the meta, you're likely going to get a 3-cost weapon, maybe a 4-cost weapon.
Yeah.
There aren't any really high, like Gorehowl, 7-cost weapons that are worth playing.
Right.
In the meta right now to cheat this out. And God forbid you draw it before you can play this on 7. So, and I know there's an argument of, if you draw it, then you play it in 7 instead of this. Well, then you're not getting nearly as much value. It's just not good.
Yeah, no, I agree. And last is the Meeting Stone. Can't go into Wailing Caverns without summoning the rest of your party to the Meeting Stone. So this is a 1-mana 0/2. At the end of your turn, add a 2/2 Adventurer with a random bonus effect to your hand.
I gave this a 1. I think it's bad because it adds it to your hand. If it summoned it onto the board, you're guaranteed to get a 1-mana 0/2 and a 2/2 with a keyword that they have to deal with the 0/2 before they deal with the 2/2. It would be good. But the fact that it puts it into your hand and you got to pay the 2 mana for the Adventurer, it's not good.
All right. That's it.
So
Woo-hoo.
My question for you is, overall, this is our second full mini set, right?
Correct.
Dark Moon Races being the first one we've seen.
Correct.
Comparatively to Dark Moon Races power level, what do you think of Wailing Caverns when you're comparing it to the only other mini set we have?
Gosh.
Which gave us Risky. What was it?
Yeah.
It wasn't Risky Skipper. Was it Bumper Cars? There's quite. I can't remember.
Yeah, Bumper Cars was in it. Hang on, I can just actually pull it up, and we can look because I have the game open.
The problem is in the game you can't search by.
You can't sort by Dark Moon Races, can you?
No, you can't. Unfortunately, I wish you could.
Yeah.
I don't know what to either, but.
So yeah, I don't know. I think I like Dark Moon Races a little better than this. Outside of Crash and a couple of the Warlock cards and the Mage cards, the rest of it just seemed kind of meh.
Yeah, I think Dark Moon Races overall was more powerful, but I do think there's a couple standouts in Wailing Caverns that we have like 3 or 4 really good cards that we'll probably see instead of a majority of them seeing play.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I favor the Dark Moon races, but I do think these are good cards, and I like what they're doing with the mini sets. They're kind of fleshing out a couple archetypes that need to get better, and then and in classes that already have really good archetypes like Paladin, they're trying to create new archetypes, other alternatives, and I think that's really what a mini set should be. And I like it. I mean, I don't think they're the most powerful, but I do think we'll see quite a bit of play.
Yeah, I agree. All right. That's going to pretty much do it for us. I did promise you guys I would show you how to craft the new card backs, because there was a couple of card backs I wanted. So what you do is you go to your collection, you click on the card back tab. It's going to take you to your card back collection. You will then kind of just tab over until you get to the page that has the card backs you don't have currently.
It should be all the way
up.
to the right.
Yep.
Yeah.
And these 5 are currently craftable. And this is one that I missed, that I have wanted for the longest time.
The very first one.
The very first
yeah.
Pandaria for April of 2014. So I am going to go ahead and just craft that.
500 gold?
500 gold.
Wow. Awesome.
So yeah, that was one of the ones I missed. So glad to be able to pick that up. So
yeah, so are any of those the ones that are grayed and not highlighted? Those can't be crafted because usually they're some kind of accomplishment in the game.
That is correct. Yeah,
they're eventually
heroic Nax Ramus, heroic Blackrock Mountain, and heroic League of Explorers are the ones I have. I'm glad they
didn't make those craftable.
Yeah, and then here's the other heroic ones I don't currently have.
Yeah, see, I have all the heroic ones. That would make them feel a little less accomplished. So if you had to do something specific for them, like obviously the Golden Celebration is not going to be craftable. Well, not right now at least. But if they were just from like, either a bundle or just for doing your monthly games, then those are the ones that should be purchasable. And I think it's a good change. I'm happy to see. I don't need any of those, obviously, and I'm not one to be like, oh, I got them and I don't want anybody else to have them. I mean, I kind of am, but I'm okay with this one. So, but yeah, that's it for this week. A reminder: we will be doing our next episode out for download on June the 14th.
Yep.
And we got I think 10 days to plan for that episode, and I think we might have a guest on that week, kind of, sorta. So definitely keep your pod feed open for that, and go ahead and close us out.
All right, guys. If you have any questions or comments about the show, please email us at heropowerpodcast@gmail.com. Hit that subscribe button below on YouTube if you've not done so already. And if you are interested in checking out our patron-only Discord, head on over to patreon.com/heropower, where for as little as $1 a month, you can join us in our Discord and chat all things Hearthstone with us. Until next week.
Don't forget to use your hero power.